Let me ask you a question. What do you think happens on Sunday when they face the Saints?
I think they get beat very handily, is what I think. I do not think they have the answer for Drew Brees on the defensive side of the ball. I don't think they can do much against Ryan's defense on the other side of the ball. I get Kaepernick's upset that Dilfer said what he said, but if you go just to the numbers, he's had, take out the Green Bay game, first game, great game, all that. He's had one game with over 200 yards passing since then. One game.
You agree with Dilfer?
Yes. I mean, listen, the numbers speak for themselves. If you are making it happen as a quarterback, you don't have the 32nd ranked passing offense. I don't care what your progressions are. If you want to be, upset that he's saying you can't do, you're not reading your progressions correctly, you're not doing this, you can say all that you want. But at the end of the day, the production on the field is not getting it done. Now, he does not have the best receiving core. I'm not trying to just, unload on this kid. He is very athletic. I don't like the way how they changed their offense from last year. They're not nearly as effective. They still need to be running the ball. They're effective. They run the ball for over 4.5 yards a carry. They need to get back to winning ugly. I know they lost to Carolina at 10-9, but those are the kinds of games that give them the best opportunity to win. Just be ugly. Be what you are. You don't have to be flashy. You don't got to throw for 300 yards. You don't have to, but control the turnovers. Don't give up, yards behind the line of scrimmage, whether it be running yards or sacks. Don't allow that to happen. Keep your offense in phase and give yourself a chance.
Why the dramatic drop from last season to this season for Kaepernick?
Well, teams get to prep for you. Here are the keys to the car. Let's go do this. And also, Crabtree not being there is a huge, it's a huge hurt. Bolquin's played, he's played okay. He's played okay.
And Quan Bolden?
Yeah, and Bolden, I'm sorry. Yeah, has played okay. Vernon Davis has played okay. But this isn't what you're used to. This isn't what you did last year. You didn't do, the read option. You're not doing it. You're not sold out to it. You may throw it in there as a changeup. You're not bleeding it and living it and trusting this is going to keep you in games. Their defense is doing their job, but they're not as dominant when you don't keep the ball and keep those yards being churned up. I understand he's frustrated. I don't think they have a very good chance against the New Orleans Saints, who I consider probably the hottest team in the NFC, period, including the Seahawks right now.
Stephen A., what do we see from Kaepernick on Sunday?
Well, I agree with Jeff. I don't think that they're going to have the answer for the New Orleans Saints, not in the regular season game. I'd give them a better chance come playoff time because they'll hone in, they'll take more chances, they'll revert back to some of the things they were doing last year, and that will be that. In fairness to Colin Kaepernick, there's a couple of things that I'd like to say. Number one, it's not just the absence of the read option compared to what it was last year in terms of its usage. You also got to remember Crabtree was there. You have to remember Randy Moss was there. And at the very, very least, he was a distraction to open things up for the Vernon Davises of the world, for Frank Gore to run, with LaMichael James to run, even though now Kendall Hunter is second fiddle to Frank Gore. So you got to take all of those things into consideration. That's point number one. What I would say to you, I also like his attitude, his feistiness, or whatever the case may be, even though I don't think it's wise to sit there and attack or go at Trent Dilfer the way that he did for a couple of reasons. Number one, you're saying you're not worried about anybody outside that locker room. Well, fans have something to say about you all the time. I guess you're saying you don't give 2 cents about what they think either. Nothing wrong with that attitude, but not necessarily so wise for you to publicize that. Number two, when you sit there and you talk about a guy like Trent Dilfer, well, he was a quarterback. He won a Super Bowl. Kind of knows what he's talking about. You see what I'm saying? And so when you look at it from that perspective, all right, it's not about comparing the abilities of Trent Dilfer to that of Colin Kaepernick when Dilfer was playing, but it's understanding and appreciating and respecting the fact that there are certain people who know what the hell they're talking about. And Trent Dilfer would happen to be one of those people. So you getting your back up all in a tizzy, acting all cantankerous and what have you, is that really necessary when your numbers are reminiscent of what Mark Sanchez did in New York for years? 56% completion percentage, 9 touchdowns, what is it, about 6 interceptions? Relatively pedestrian kind of numbers. This is on him and Jim Harbaugh and the organization. I think they'll make amends. I think they'll be just fine. It just won't be this week. But that's not Trent Dilfer's fault, Colin Kaepernick. It would happen to be yours.
Okay, I hear what you say. I agree with both of you. This is wrong place, wrong time for Kaepernick. Somehow Rob Ryan has that last year's pathetic defense ranked 5th in points allowed this year. I don't know how he's doing that. He held Tony Romo 0 for 9 on 3rd down, and obviously Drew Brees is coming off a record-setting performance with 40 first downs against my Dallas Cowboys. Now, I want to be very clear here. I'm not giving up on Colin Kaepernick. I know he's hit a rough patch, but I pointed out to Stephen A. earlier, before this last game against Carolina, they had gone 5 straight weeks averaging 35 points a game. I agree with you about the sensational passing numbers, but I still think he's going to be really good. He's going through a rough patch because he's still, you can argue, in his rookie sequence of starts, because he started mid-year and now we're halfway through. So he's still, quote unquote, to me, a rookie quarterback. And you well know Peyton Manning's rookie year was pretty rocky. He did have 26 touchdowns to 28 interceptions, but he bounced right back, and thanks to the arrival of Jeff Saturday the next year, 3-13 turned into 13-3.
Get on that back, Manning.
Right there.
Get on that back.
All about
carry the promised land.
Okay? But clearly, Peyton Manning never looked back at 28 interceptions, and he became Peyton Manning. I'm not saying Kaepernick becomes Peyton, but remember, last year in his second start, he went down to that Superdome and won, 31-21. So I saw so much good from him. I'm with Stephen A. I still think you have to unleash him a little bit on the read option. They just don't do it anymore.
Right.
I think it's against Jim Harbaugh's philosophy. You know, it's like, well, I gave into it last year to get him into the flow. We're going to do it the right way this year. Well, the right way is to let him run the ball a little bit.